Hello friends, the book for today is a short story titled A Sale by French author Guy de Maupassant. It's a unique and interesting story with a lot of tongue twisting French names and words which I'll try and simplify for you. The story picks up only after the first half, so be a little attentive. The story opens in a courtroom. There are two defendants, César Isidore Brument and Prosper Napoleon Cornu. To simplify, I will refer them as Brument and Cornu. They appear before the court on a charge of attempted murder by drowning of Madame Brument, the lawful wife of Brument mentioned earlier. The two prisoners are seated side by side on a traditional bench. They are two peasants. The first one, Brument, is small and stout with short arms, short legs, and a round head with a red pimply face planted directly on his trunk, which is also round and short and with apparently no neck. He is a raiser of pigs and lives somewhere in France. On the other hand, Cornu is thin, a medium height, with enormously long arms. His head was on crooked, his jaw awry, and he himself squinted. He wore a blue blouse as long as a shirt that hung down to his knees, and his yellow hair, which is scanty and plastered down on his head, gives his face a worn-out, dirty look, a dilapidated look that is frightening. He is nicknamed the Cure because he could imitate to perfection the chanting in church and even the sound of a serpent. This talent attracted to his cafe, for he was a saloon keeper, a great many customers who preferred the Mass at Cornu than the Mass in church. The court scene begins with Madame Brument. She is seated on a witness bench. She is a thin peasant woman who seems to be always asleep. She has been sitting there motionless, her hands crossed on her knees, gazing fixedly before her with a stupid expression. The judge continues with his interrogation. Well then, Madam Brument, they came into your house and threw you into a barrel full of water. Tell us the details. Stand up. She rose. She looked as tall as a flagpole with a cap that looked like a white skull cap. She said in a drawling tone, I was shelling beans. Just then they came in. I said to myself, what is the matter with them? They do not seem natural. They seem up to some mischief. They watched me sideways like this, especially Cornu, because he squints. I do not like to see them together, for the two collectively are good for nothing when they are in company, I said. What do you want from me? They did not answer, and with that I had a sort of mistrust. The defendant, Brument, interrupted the witness hastily, saying, I was full. Full means drunk here. Then Cornu, turning his accomplice, said in a deep tone, say that we were both full and you will be telling no lie. The judge intervened. You mean by that you are both drunk? There can be no question about it, replied Brument. That might happen to anyone, said Cornu. The judge said to the victim, "Continue with your testimony, woman Brumant." Brumant continued, "Well, Mr. Brumant said to me, do you wish to earn 100 sous? Sous are French coins." "Yes," I replied. "Then," he said, "open your eyes and do as I do." And he went to fetch a large empty barrel which was lying under the rain pipe in the corner, and he turned it over and brought it into my kitchen and stuck it down in the middle of the floor. And then he said to me, "Go and fetch water until it is full." So I went to the pond with 2 buckets and carried water and still more water for an hour, seeing that the barrel was as large as a huge tank. All this time Brumant and Cornu were drinking. When they were finishing their drinks, I said to them, "You are fuller than this barrel." Brumant answered, "Don't worry, go on with your work. Your turn will come. Each one has his share." I paid no attention to what he said, as he was full. When the barrel was full to the brim, I said, "There, that's done." And then Cornu gave me 100 sous and not Brumant. Brumant said, "Do you wish to earn 100 sous more?" "Yes," I said, "for I am not accustomed to presents like that." Then he said, "Take off your clothes." "Take off my clothes?" I reacted. "Yes," he said. "How many shall I take off?" "If it worries you at all, keep on your chemise. That won't bother us." 100 sous is 100 sous, even if I have to undress myself. But I did not fancy undressing before those two good for nothing. I took off my cap, and then my jacket, and then my skirt, and then my shoes. Brumant said, "Keep on your stockings also, as we are good fellows." And Cornu said too, "We are good fellows." So there I was almost like Mother Eve, and they got up from their chairs but could not stand straight. They were so full, Your Honor. I said to myself, "What are they up to?" Brumant asked, "Are you ready?" Cornu replied, "I am ready." And then they lifted me, Brumant by the head and Cornu by the feet. Then I began to shout. Brumant said, "Keep still, wretched creature." And they lifted me up in the air and put me into the barrel, which was full of water, so that I had a check of the circulation, a chill to my very insides. Brumant said, "Is that all?" Cornu said, "That is all." Brumant said, "The head is not in. That will make a difference in the measure." Cornu said, "Put in her head." And then Brumant pushed down my head as if to drown me, so that the water ran into my nose. And he pushed it down and I disappeared. And then he must have been frightened. He pulled me out and said, "Go and get dry, carcass." As for me, I took to my heels and ran to my father. He lent me a skirt belonging to his servant, for I was almost in a state of nature, and he went to fetch the country watchman, who in turn went to fetch the police, who came to my house with me. Then we found Brumant and Cornu fighting each other like 2 rams. Brumant was crying, "It isn't true. I will tell you that there is at least a cubic meter in it. It is the method that was no good." Cornu shouted, "4 buckets. That is almost half a cubic meter. You need not reply. That's what it is." The police captain put them both under arrest. I have nothing more to tell. She sat down. The audience in the courtroom laughed. The jurors looked at one another in astonishment. The judge said, "Defendant Cornu, you seem to have been the instigator of this infamous plot. What do you have to say?" Cornu rose. Your Honor, he replied, I was full. The judge answered gravely, I know, proceed. I will. Well, Bruman came to my place at about 9 o'clock and ordered 2 drinks and said, There's one for you, Cornu. I sat down opposite him and drank, and out of politeness I offered him a glass. Then he returned the compliment, and so did I. And so I went on from glass to glass until noon, when we were full. Then Bruman began to cry, and that touched me. I asked him what was the matter. He said, I must have 1,000 francs by Thursday. That cooled me off a little. You understand. Then he said to me, all at once, I will sell you my wife. I was full, and I was a widower. You understand, that stirred me up. I did not know his wife, but she was a woman, wasn't she? I asked him, how much would you sell her for? He reflected, or pretended to reflect. When one is full, one is not very clear-minded or clear-headed, and he replied, I will sell her by the cubic meter. That did not surprise me, for I was as drunk as he was, and I knew that a cubic meter is, in my business, it is 1,000 liters. That suited me. But the price remained to be settled. All depends on the quality, I said. How much do you want for a cubic meter? He answered, 2,000 francs. I jumped like a rabbit, and then I reflected that a woman ought not to measure more than 300 liters. So I said, that's too dear. He answered, I cannot do it for less. I would lose. If she were new, I would not say anything, but she has been married to you for some time, so she is not as fresh as she was. I will give you 1,500 francs a cubic meter, not a sou more. Will that suit you? Said Cornu. He answered, that will do. That's a bargain now. I agreed, and we started out arm in arm. We must help each other in times of need. But a thought came to me, how can you measure her unless you dip her in liquid? Then he explained his idea, not without difficulty, for he was full. He said to me, I'll take a barrel and fill it with water up to the brim. I'll put her in it. All the water that comes out, we will measure. That is the way to fix it. I said, I see, I understand, but the water that overflows will run away. So how will you measure it? Then he began stuffing me and explained to me that all we have to do would be to refill the barrel with water his wife had displaced as soon as she should have left. All the water we poured in would be the measure. I suppose about 10 buckets, that would be a cubic meter. We finally reached his house, and I took a look at his wife. She was certainly not beautiful. Anyone can see her, for there she is, sitting there. I said to myself, I am disappointed, but never mind. She will be of value. Handsome or ugly, it is all the same, is it not, Your Honor? And then I saw that she was as thin as a rail. I said to myself, she will not measure 400 liters. I understand the matter being in liquor trade. She has already told you about the proceeding, Your Honor. I even let her keep on her chemise and stockings to my disadvantage. When that was done, she ran away. I said, look out, Bruman, she is escaping. He replied, do not be afraid. I will catch her. All right, she will have to come back to sleep. I will measure the deficit. We measured. It was not 4 buckets full. At this, Bruman began to laugh so hysterically that a cop was obliged to punch him in the back. Having quieted him down, he resumed. In short, Bruman exclaimed, nothing doing, that is not enough. I shouted and shouted and shouted. Again, he punched me. I hit back. That would have kept on till the day of judgment, seeing we were both drunk. Then came the policemen. They swore at us and took us off to prison. Cornu finally sat down after his long statement. Bruman confirmed in every particular the statements of his accomplice. The jury, in consternation, retired to deliberate. At the end of an hour, they returned a verdict of acquittal for the defendants, with some severe strictures on the dignity of marriage and establishing the precise limitations of business transactions. Bruman went home, accompanied by his wife. Cornu went back to his business. So, friends, this is the end of the story. I would give the story 7 out of 10. As always, it reflects how some perverted men get away with ghastly crimes on women, and it happens even today. Isn't it sad? So, goodbye, friends, and see you soon.